I am glad this committee is tackling housing finance reform again. I'll push the same point I've pushed since I joined the Senate in 2013. We need to end the government conservatorship of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and we need to do so in a way that protects taxpayers, establishes an explicit and paid-for government guarantee, and provides more affordable housing options for people in Massachusetts and all across the country. Now, on that question of access, Director Watt, as you know, the CFPB's current mortgage rules define certain loans as qualified mortgages, or QM, and offer lenders legal immunity for loans that meet the QM standards. But the CFPB also grants QM status to any mortgage that is eligible for purchase by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, which means that the underwriting criteria at Fannie and Freddie help define the scope of the QM rule and accordingly have a huge impact on the kinds of families that can get access to mortgage credit. Despite all this, Fannie and Freddie's underwriting algorithms and criteria are kept secret. So can you explain why it is reasonable to keep this information hidden, given its importance both to the economy and to appropriate oversight of the mortgage market?
I don't know that I can explain that to you, Senator, but I can have our agency explain it to you as we understand it, but I'm not sure that I have focused on that as an issue.
Well, let me suggest it this way then. I think it is an issue, and instead of explaining it to me, what I'd really like to do is get a commitment as soon as we can that we would make this information public.
Well, I wouldn't make that commitment without knowing why why it's not public.
I'm glad to pursue
that. So that would be part of what we would be handling.
But I want to be clear, as long as these entities are in conservatorship and as long as their standards are setting the boundaries of our consumer federal protection issues, I think it's important that they be public. We can't exercise oversight without that. So let me ask another question, and that is about principal reduction. In the 2008 bank bailout, Congress required FHFA to adopt a plan, and I'm going to read here, that seeks to maximize assistance for homeowners and minimize foreclosures. And Congress specifically required FHFA to consider principal reduction to achieve those goals. That was in 2008. And for years, FHFA did nothing, and people kept losing their homes. And when you were nominated to run the agency in 2013, you said you would tackle principal reduction. I asked you about it repeatedly, but for 2 years after you were sworn in, you didn't move an inch on this. Finally, in April of 2016, you announced a principal reduction program that's 8 years and literally millions of foreclosures later. Even then, you used eligibility criteria that were so demanding that by your own calculations, only 33,000 borrowers in the entire nation would qualify for principal reduction. And worse, you didn't actually require services to reduce the loan principal for those 33,000 eligible borrowers. You only required them to, quote, solicit borrowers eligible for a principal reduction modification no later than October 15th of 2016. All right, we're now nearly 7 months past that October deadline. I've looked at FHFA's quarterly foreclosure reports. I can't find any information about how this program is working. So I just want to know, how many of those 33,000 eligible borrowers as of today have actually gotten a principal reduction?
I can't give you the exact number, but I can tell you it's a small number. The 33,000 is a small number, and I've tried to explain why that is so.
I get that the 33,000 is a small number. What portion of the 33,000? Can you give me a ballpark?
I'll provide it to you. I just don't have it at my fingertips.
Do you have a ballpark? Half?
No, I don't think it's half. I think our projections indicated that it would be some more in the range of 15 to 20% would be who would likely be able to do this.
So After Congress mandated a plan.
Well, you didn't mandate
maximize-
that. Wait a
No,
minute.
we did in 2008. It's written in the statute. It says
But there's also a
maximize-
statute a countervailing provision in the statute that says we cannot do certain things that are not economically feasible. So the analysis I
problem is
did
I'm sorry,
to
Director
get
Watt.
to the 33,000 got to the people that we could do with justice to both statutes.
For years, people lost their homes because FHFA would not enforce the part of the bill that says give some relief to homeowners. And study after study showed that it was economically feasible to do that, and instead millions of people lost their homes.
Senator, that's just not true now. What we didn't do was principal reduction, but there are
You sure
millions
didn't.
and millions of people that we have provided relief for whose homes were in jeopardy. So to say that we haven't done anything in that space just because we did a modest principal reduction program is just not true.
Well, but you didn't do the principal
We
reduction
did not do the
program
principal
for
reduction, and
years
I have
and years
explained that
and
to
years.
you multiple times in this committee. Why?
You know, actually, it's interesting. You did not start out explaining it. You started out saying you would do it. I asked you in this hearing room over and over. I asked you originally at your confirmation hearing and at follow-up oversight, and you did not say, we've already done something else. You said you would do principal reduction.
Senator, I
And now
do
you're
not
down-
believe, if you go back and look at the record, either at my confirmation hearing or at any point in this hearing, in the hearing where we discussed this, that I made that commitment to you. I said I would look at it, I would do it in accordance with the statute, and that's exactly what I have done.
And now you're down to a few thousand people. You know, after the crisis, the money just flew out the door for the banks, billions and billions of dollars, as fast as people could sign the checks. But money for people, many of whom had been ripped off by those same banks, it was just one message of delay and no, and we have to balance this other thing out, hand-wringing about moral hazard, excuses not to help.
I certainly
people who
hope you're
needed
not
the help.
blaming me for that.
You were in charge for at
I
least
didn't
a portion
create
of
that
this time.
situation. I tried to stop it when I was a member of the House by getting people to quit making loans to people who could not afford to repay them. I mean, I was the original author of the bill. So I don't know. I agree that all of those things have taken place, but to make it sound like for some reason I am responsible for that, I think is unfair and untrue and unjust,
So let
and
me
all
say,
of the
Mr.
uns
Watt,
that I can think of.
Mr. Watt, the people who preceded you certainly share the blame. They did nothing. But when you came in, you've been driving this bus since 2013, and on principal reduction, by your own numbers, at best, a few thousand people have gotten help. And I think that is shameful.
We need to move on. I've let this go on a bit so the two of you could get it out, but it's out. Now it's Senator Reid's turn. Senator Reid.
Well, thank